Hello everyone and welcome to Wednesday's Q&A. I'm Dr. Janine. It's great to have you all here. Please say hello and where you're from. And hey, if you're here for the first time, please put a 1 in the comments. This is where you have a chance to ask me your questions. Of course, yesterday we had our show, the Doctor Janine Show, and we went through a number of different topics. And if you can guess what we made, yes, we made these delicious low-carb, collagen-rich macaroons. I've already had 2 today, and I'm just, holding myself back from eating the rest on the plate. But I can share that recipe again with you if you missed yesterday's episode. And of course, we talked about brain blood flow, so helping to ensure that we have that proper blood flow, oxygenation to the brain, and certain foods that actually help with that and the impacts for, again, cardiovascular health as well. We also talked about tips for cold exposure, so please say hello. If you're in a cold climate right now, put some emojis in there to show me that it's cold. And hey, if you're on a beach under the nice sunny weather, then show me that as well. Eva, hello, nice to have you here. Thank you for tuning in today. It's so great to have you all here and love the fact that we can, okay, Sunshine Mumsy, yes, you want to see that recipe? Should we go there? Okay, I'm going to make you hold on for just a second. I know that a lot of questions come in about gut health, so I see this from Hugo. And yes, so gut health, very, very important that we're optimizing the health of our microbiome. And it's something that I talk a lot about in my content. Love that question. And making sure that we have a good connection with our environment. So, of course, gut healthy foods that we know that are loaded with the good guys, the probiotics is very important. So things like sauerkraut, kimchi, live whole foods, staying away from processed foods, of course, that are laden with a lot of chemicals. That's going to compromise your good gut health. And if you do have a lot of, okay, somebody's here from Dubai. Yeah, Raud Hayes. Good. Thank you for tuning in. It's great to have you with the nice sunshine. Eva, you've got sunshine as well. Love that. And Juliet, not sure if that means all cold, but yes, maybe you're in a colder climate, which is so great to have you here. Thank you so much for tuning in. And hello, Adventures of Boxer Jake in Nova Scotia. Nice to have you here. Fruzanne, hello in New Orleans. Nice to have you here. Thank you so much. And Cindy, good morning. Nice to have you here. Actually, good afternoon where I'm at. Sabina in India, thank you for tuning in. Great to have you here. Okay, so let's continue the conversation. Yes, about gut health, very important. One of the things as well is overall inflammation in the body. One of the things that we talked about yesterday, let's go on over here. I promise I'm going to show you the recipe, okay, for the macaroons that we made yesterday. That's going to come up in just a second. But it's one of the things that we talked about yesterday is grounding. So actually getting out on the earth, and I shared some tips yesterday for grounding even in colder temperatures, and we can review that really quickly, but this lowers overall inflammation. So a lot of gut issues, so if you've got a lot of gas and bloating and gut health issues, that can be related to your environment and a disconnect between, you've got clocks in your gut and you've got a major clock in your SCN of the hypothalamus in your brain, and when those clocks become discoordinated based on your light and dark cycle of the day, as well as your EMF exposure, so many different aspects, eating the wrong foods. So eating foods in the wrong season at the wrong time and under artificial light all has an impact on your gut clocks, and that can really compromise your gut health. So that becomes very important, and it's so important to be able to look at, our health in a full spectrum way. And that's why on my show, of course, and on my content that I share things maybe that you haven't heard before about health, and of course, always from a natural perspective. Reconnecting with our environment is very, very important for overall health. So whether that's gut health, whether that's inflammation in your joints, whether that is, issues with brain and blood flow, which we talked about yesterday, really important. Okay, let's take a look really quickly. I do want to review those winter grounding tips. So how do we get grounded, especially in colder temperatures? Okay, you can wear wool or cotton socks and get outside on the earth, on the snow, even on the ice. You can do this. It doesn't take long. You don't have to do it for long, as long as you do it, okay, to pull up those Earth's electrons, which are very anti-inflammatory. You can also wear leather-soled shoes or boots, stand on a cement floor in your home, which is usually your basement floor. It could be your garage floor as well if it's just concrete right on the earth. If there's no barrier there, then that will work as well. If it's painted, though, sometimes that's going to decrease your conductivity. So I'm talking bare concrete here. Or the door track. So if you have an either electric or manual garage door, the metal track is usually grounded. And that's often in the wintertime. What I do daily in the morning first thing is to get grounded first thing in the morning, as well as touching your kitchen faucet. So if you have metal pipes, this works if you've got metal pipes. So an older home, of course our newer homes have more plastic, so you wouldn't be able to ground as well. But your kitchen faucet is a good place to ground if you've got metal pipes. And you can pet your dog or your pets outside as long as they're grounded and connected to the earth. This is amazing. I saw a funny video this morning. It came up on my feed. I don't know, maybe because it was listening to me, who knows. But putting, it was, I think, a golden retriever, and daddy of the golden retriever got some green shoes for himself and then some of the Crocs for the dog. And the dog was trying to walk around in these Crocs. It was absolutely hilarious. I don't know if you've seen it. Okay. But I don't like the shoes on the dogs because that, especially if it's rubber soled, because it loses that connectivity with the earth. And now your pet is ungrounded, which is maybe compromising for their own health. Hello, nice to see you, Christy. Thank you for tuning in. Orlando in Orlando, Florida. Thank you again for tuning in. Great to have you here, as well as, okay, so more questions coming in about adaptogenic mushrooms. Yes, they can be very helpful, absolutely, but depending on, again, when you take them, what you're taking them for. Adaptogens, yeah, it can be very helpful, especially for your cortisol levels. One of the foundations of cortisol being out of whack is something called leptin resistance, something that I talk a lot about on my channel. So that's something that you want to investigate, because there's something called pregnenolone steal, and this is when your cortisol is being preferentially made, and now you're getting, less of your downstream hormones from pregnenolone, like DHEA, your testosterone, your estrogen, your progesterone, and it's going to make, your body's going to make more and more cortisol. So that's one of the reasons that, taking an adaptogenic herbal medicine or a mushroom elixir, when you've got pregnenolone steal, it's one thing to deal with that, the wrong spikes of cortisol at the wrong time of day, which can be affecting your inability to have a proper body weight, as well as your sleep and your energy levels throughout the day. That's one thing to take the adaptogens to fix this problem, but are you really getting at the root cause as to why this is happening in the first place? And this is related to the leptin issue as well as chronic inflammation. So I always like to look at the root cause as to why something is out of balance. Orlando, thank you for sharing today's live. And hey, if you're new here for the first time, please hit that subscribe button. Make sure you are following as well. And I appreciate all the love. So while I see all those hearts coming in when you're tapping your screen and doing all that fun stuff throughout the live, so I do appreciate that. On today's Q&A, so of course Wednesdays, if you're new here, and thank you to all my new followers. Thank you, Anna, for sharing today's live as well. Love that. And Logan, thank you for following. It's great to have you here, probably for the first time. Make sure you tune in. So Wednesdays is our Q&A, and welcome on in. I'm Dr. Janine, answering your questions today. And of course on Tuesdays is our live show. So every Tuesday at 11 a.m. So please tune in next week, 11 a.m. You can see all of my old episodes are, on long form video. You can check those out if you've missed, some of the big topics that we've talked about. And often I refer to things that we've talked about in the past. So if that sort of comes up in the live or in the Q&A, then make sure you go back and revisit some of those topics. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, Dee has a great question. What is good for kids' gut health? I'm big on probiotics. Let's go on over here really quickly. And look at Lucy, because our healthy microbiome becomes really important for kids as well. So children that are born C-section, just so that you know, often they don't get that proper inoculation with a vaginal birth of the good guys, the good probiotics. Now, of course, throughout their lifetime, though, they're going to be picking up the microbiome their closest caregivers, so usually mom and dad. But over time, if they've needed to have antibiotics for whatever reason, it wipes out the good gut flora, and now we've got a situation where there's not enough of the good guys, the probiotics. So this is one thing, certain strains of probiotics I'm big on. I've always given my children Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bifidobacterium bifidum. You've got to make sure that your probiotics, though, is actually, we took Lucy apart earlier. Okay, so the stomach has stomach acid, right? So when you're taking a good quality probiotic for the kids as well, you've got to make sure that it's acid stable, that it's been tested to be acid stable, that it actually bypasses the stomach acid and gets to both the small and the large intestine. So that's one thing. for kids' gut health. I mean, getting kids to eat a healthier diet, it's actually amazing. This is something that I, have really noticed with my patients for years, is especially with the pediatric cases, is that when you start to give them a good probiotic, and it starts to propagate. So I like one that has actually the prebiotics in as well, the fructooligosaccharides. When the kids start to actually propagate their own probiotics, and they're taking the probiotics, and it's a well-absorbed form, again, without the magnesium stearate. I'm going to show you that really quickly because that's important. And I don't always mention this, but often, if you've followed me before, give me a thumbs up if you've been a follower for a while, and that could be even just a couple weeks, but you've been here more than once. Give me a thumbs up. And thank you for all those likes and the hearts coming in. But yeah, if you're taking probiotics, making sure that it does not have magnesium stearate. This is so crazy. The fact that magnesium stearate, it's a flow agent. It's not magnesium. So people see this on their probiotics label, and they think, oh, it's magnesium. That's good for me. This is a chemical, and it's chemically derived, and the material data safety sheet for magnesium stearate says I should actually be wearing gloves, just handling it. It's in most supplements and most probiotics in an encapsulated form. It compromises the absorption, and some people are actually very sensitive to the chemical, the magnesium stearate. It can cause acid reflux. It's going to compromise the absorption of whatever supplement that it's on. So please check your probiotics, check your vitamin bottles, make sure you're not ingesting that magnesium stearate. But back to kids' gut health, probiotics super important, and yeah, with the prebiotics in there, that's one thing. Getting them, and here's the thing, when they start taking that probiotics, then their digestion improves, and their hunger actually improves as well. So that's usually where I start, have always started with my pediatric cases. If the child is not eating well, and their appetite isn't that great, and their appetite is only for the sugars and things, often there could be like a candida issue as well. So it's something that we can address in a different way with getting rid of some of the bad bugs that are in the gut as well, which is so important. Okay, thank you. Yes, Bestness, Sunshine Mumsy, all of my regulars, Adventures of Boxer, Jake, Fazal, you've been here, Sharon as well, Rachel Rose, John Travis, Tara, you've been here a while, Monica, Nasimo, Pasky, Jessica, user 791, D, Megan, thank you so much for returning. I love the fact that, everybody comes back, and hopefully you've learned a thing or two over, the last few years that we've had the live show, because that's my passion. I love to educate and really feel that it's important that people you're educating yourself with the knowledge, and that's so empowering for your own health, right? Eva as well, I know you've been with me for a long time. Love it, love it, love it. Okay. So Eva's saying grounding as a child used to get car sick, and then your dad connected the wire to the bumper to touch the ground. He proved that it worked. And then you never got sick after that. And that was over 60 years ago. Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So grounding, so important, because when you're not grounded, and especially in motion as well, that can be really challenging. So I'm so glad that you were able to discover that your dad was able to help you out. Oh, and that's over 60 years ago. Amazing, amazing. So grounding, so important in terms of our overall health. I know in the tech industry, it's one of the things that commonly, even, not just recently because of EMF exposure and electromagnetism, but for a long time now, that, if you're in the tech industry, you need to be grounded. Of course, so that you don't get sick and you don't feel unwell, which is so important now. We talk about grounding as being important as anti-inflammatory. A lot of research has been done in terms of the anti-inflammatory effects of getting grounded, but it's so much more challenging. That's why we covered it in the show yesterday. It's so much more challenging when it's cold outside and you don't want to necessarily go out with your bare feet, and that's why I shared my tips. Okay, now I do want to talk about getting cold, because that is really important, something that we talked about yesterday. Asma, thank you. You're great as well. Thank you for tuning in today. All right, so, and please put a 1 in the comments if you have embraced the cold. So you're okay with the cold exposure, whether that is cold showers, getting cold outside, letting yourself get cold, going for a shiver walk or a shiver run. Has anybody done that yet? Let me know. Just put shiver walk, which is like 30 minutes or so of going out in the winter with just your shorts and your t-shirt on and going for a walk. I don't know how many of you, I don't think I'm going to see anybody who's done that, but if you have put sugar walk, oh my goodness, sugar walk in the God, you've done a sugar walk? I hear my producer in my ear. Yeah, maybe some people have done a sugar walk. I'm talking about shiver. Okay, Christine, you have not done any cold exposure. It's okay. There's always a first time to start. Lanta, nice to see you and glad that you've done the cold exposure. Amoeba, Han, yes, Christine, Zagabo, Rhonda, Sprangler, and Elaine, you've all done the cold exposure. Love it. Yeah, Kai Nurse 83, if you've got Raynaud's, that is often a contraindication, unfortunately, for, of course, doing that cold exposure. Great to have you all here today. And Michael, hello in Germany. It's nice to have you here. Thank you. Philip, yes. You did 50 seconds of cold shower and amazing. Good. Try to end in cold though, Philip. That's the thing with cold exposure. You want to end in cold and then you can warm up naturally after in your natural environment. But yeah, that cold exposure, it doesn't have to be long. If you can only, have your regular shower, you always want to end in cold, even if it's just 10 seconds. Then it's still cold exposure. But ideally you get it to about 30 seconds. You want to see a little bit of that shiver. You want to see those goosebumps. That means that you've actually hit the right point. And then what amazingly happens, the more cold exposure that you do, your body actually gets warm. So you, even in the midst of the cold, you start to feel your body heating up. And that's when you know that you're actually at that point where you're getting some serious health benefits from that cold exposure. Increasing, of course, that brown fat, something that we talked about yesterday as well as one of the benefits of cold exposure. Okay, here's a great question from Tisha Anderson, 3CS. Do the EMF blocking necklaces or stickers on your phone work? I believe that they do, depending on the company though. So you've got to find them from a reputable company. And it depends how you feel, right? It depends how you feel. Everybody's electromagnetism and the way that your cells are working is different from everybody else's. So do you feel better? Now they're not, and here's the thing, with any of those devices that you either attach to your phone or you wear the necklace or whatever, is that it's not a replacement for limiting your EMF exposure, if that makes sense, okay? So it's kind of a Band-Aid approach to really trying to distance yourself from EMFs. Now, I know we need to use our phones, we need to use our tech, so just doing it in a more safe way is definitely what we definitely want to do. Okay, some questions about hyperthyroidism. Where's my thyroid? Okay, let's go over here really quickly. It's not something that we talked about yesterday, but it's something that I have a lot of content on, so please make sure that you're checking out my content on hyperthyroidism. But EMFs is a big part of hyperthyroidism. So especially having a phone or devices or Bluetooth close to your thyroid is going to compromise your proper thyroid function. Okay, so that's something that, and definitely you got to do the grounding every day, more sunlight exposure. You've got to get more natural light, red light on your thyroid, and even UV is important as well for thyroid health, making those connections. There's a disconnect. So any type of thyroid issue, we have clocks in our thyroid, we have clocks in our brain. So where's the brain? Okay, we're going to go over here just for a second. I know you have a hard time following me today, but I'm all over the place, but here we go. Okay, because I think it's good. Who loves the visuals? Anybody? Put a 2 in the comments if you love the visuals, because I learn by that's how I learn. I appreciate when other people are visual learners as well. Okay, so your thyroid and your brain, there's clocks. So the major master clock, yes, Christine, Barb, you love the visuals. I know, I'm glad. Joe, Essie, Anton, Marlene, Sadie, Tara, okay, the hot fam, Sharon, Amoebas, Han, Sunshine Mumsy, okay, Deb, Suma, I'm trying to call out everybody, Sarira, Stacy, Deb, Adventures of Boxer Joe, okay, Jake, sorry, yes, okay, Jessica, you love Shella, you love the visuals, okay, I'm so glad, all right. Here we go. All right, so here we go with our thyroid and our brain, okay? And this is true for all of our organ systems. We're just talking about the thyroid now. Okay, so for our thyroid, the master clock in the brain is something that we've talked about. I'm not going to quiz you today. So usually if you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for following and thank you for tuning in today. Okay, and making sure that you're subscribed. But usually we talk about SCN, the suprachiasmatic nucleus in the brain and the hypothalamus, all right? So that's really important. That's our master clock. That master clock has to be running at a rate that is in control of the downstream clock. So this is the major one. It's got to be running faster than the other ones. Now what happens when we've got, for instance, thyroid disease, the thyroid has taken off on its own tangent. It's running faster potentially than the major one in our clock. So now there's a mismatch. It's called a circadian mismatch. So our clock timing mechanisms in our organs are mismatched. And now the brain is getting weird signals. Okay, what's going on with the thyroid? And now it can become overactive. So you start to lose weight, maybe you feel shaky, and maybe you have excess irritability and hunger, and you can't get your weight back on despite what you're eating. Okay, so here's the thing. How do we find that balance again between the major clock in the brain and the thyroid? Again, there's all these feedback loops. So feeling like your body is in a safe environment is really important. That's why the grounding is so important. That's why the natural sunlight exposure is important. If you can't see the sun, doing, proper light therapy is going to be important for that thyroid as well. Yes, the diet is important. You've got to have a clean diet. Often there's a link between, gluten and issues with, inflammation in the gut relating back to the thyroid. But please check out my videos on hyperthyroidism. I think it's really going to help you, as well as limiting that EMF exposure is huge. It's huge. Don't have the lights on after dark. If you do, you're covering your eyes and your skin and not being on technology after the sun has set as much as you can possibly help it. Don't eat after dark as well. That's going to mess up those clock mechanisms in between the brain and the thyroid. The thyroid is very much reliant, as you know, and this goes for hypothyroidism, so low thyroid as well, very much reliant on the ability to have proper timing mechanisms because it's regulating your body temperature. Your body temperature at nighttime is what? What's it supposed to do? So everything drops at nighttime. Your brain has to cool at nighttime to secrete your proper melatonin for good sleep. So everything is connected to everything else. The thyroid is a major regulator for your body temperature. It's related to the light and dark cycle of the day. So a lot of people are messing it up with EMF exposure, having lights or technology on after dark. It screws up your thyroid, okay? Both hyper and hypo. I hope that helps. If anybody just had a mind blown, like, oh my goodness, that makes sense, put that emoji in, because I know I'm talking to someone who needed to hear that, you're starting to make some connections. As much as the diet, you're trying to do a diet for your thyroid or you've got to come back to the circadian biology, which is so, so important, if that makes sense. All right, yes, okay, a lot of people love and Lori is, truth seeker, mind blown, I'm so glad. Okay, all right, so Great King 316, any recommendations for a better, I don't know if I want to say the supplement. There's a green supplement out there that has a lot of advertising. It starts with an A, it ends with this C. I don't want to say the whole thing, but yeah, there are definitely things that you can take. Now that sort of has a lot of things all in one, and one of the attributes is to balance blood glucose levels, but you can see behind me is that we definitely want to make sure that we are balancing our blood glucose levels and doing it naturally. So here you can see muscat and grape skins. These are my favorite herbal medicines in combination together to balance blood glucose levels. So muscat and grape skin, African wild mango seeds, Gymnema sylvester, and white mulberry. So that is a great way to balance your blood sugar levels all naturally. Can help with that stubborn weight loss as well, because we know when we have leptin and insulin levels, it can be very difficult if you're trying to lose weight to actually be able to access to oxidize and mobilize that fat. And in a high insulin state, you won't be able to do that. So this is why it's so important, and this is why it's all the rage. All of those injectable, medications right now are all the rage in terms of being great for weight loss, but they have negative side effects, unfortunately, as well, which not everybody always talks about. Carol, I'm glad that information helped about the thyroid. If you're just tuning in, we talked about hyper and hypothyroidism. Okay, a question about, let's review what we talked about yesterday really quickly, the 10 best foods for your brain health and to help with blood flow to the brain. Let's review my favorites really quickly. Here we go. So avocados, fantastic for, of course, the omegas in there, our healthy fats, and some vitamin E as well. Helps with proper dilation of our blood vessels. Swiss chard and the leafy greens have been shown in the research to really help with the nitrates, and the nitrates are helping as vasodilators as well, so helps with that blood flow to our brain tissue, helps to keep our brain alive and awake, which is so important. Dark chocolate, my favorite, of course. Watermelon has lycopene, and tomatoes have lycopene as well, really fantastic for proper blood flow. And oysters, loaded with the minerals and the DHA. So remember, DHA is concentrated in the retina, so in the eye, but in the brain as well, and that is going to wake up our electrical signaling in the body, so we need to have enough of that DHA. Walnuts for the omegas as well. And if you look at a walnut, what does it look like? It actually looks like a brain. So this is something that's really remarkable for the fact that, yeah, you can get so many benefits from a lot of these foods for your proper brain health. Wild salmon, again, the omegas, very anti-inflammatory as well. Spinach, and of course, olive oil loaded with those polyphenols, great for your brain health. All right, thank you for tuning in today, Shayna. Nice to, my team is gonna help to, if you can look at Shayna's question, what the name of that combination of that herbal medicines is called. Thank you so much. And lectins, Adventures of Boxer Jake. How concerned should we be about lectins? Well, here's the thing about lectins. In their raw form, like peanuts, for instance, maybe not the best thing to eat a lot of raw peanuts. But if you have roasted peanuts, then a lot of the lectin problem disappears as soon as they're roasted. So that's true of most of the high lectin foods, is that, as soon as it's heated, that the lectins are not so much of a problem. Again, lectins, if you have a lot of gut inflammatory issues, maybe at the beginning, I would, as you're dealing with healing your gut, the great thing about your gut cells is that they can heal in as little as 3 to 5 days. So for anybody who's watching, I don't know who needs to hear this, but if you've had a gut inflammatory thing happening with gas and bloating and gut inflammation and a chronic gut issue for more than 3 to 5 days, then whatever you're doing is not working. So just, do some more research for yourself. Take a look at a lot of my content that I have on gut health and start to make some choices as to maybe finding some resolve as to what's going on with your gut health. And a lot of it isn't always just diet. It has to do with those circadian clock mechanisms that I was talking about. Remember the connection between the major one in your brain? And did you know that your microbiome actually is in tune with the light and dark cycle of the day and your circadian rhythms as well? And there's always this feedback, if you've heard of the gut-brain axis, so that connection between your gut and what's happening with, all the hormones in your brain, really, really important. So it's usually not the lectins that are at the crux of, what's going wrong. Jake, love that question. Okay. Ahmed, how can we increase testosterone levels? This is a great question. Let's go back to pregnenolone steal really quickly. You got to fix your leptin resistance and your insulin signaling as well. Lowering your stress, getting out of that inflammatory state, because look at testosterone. It's downstream from what? From DHEA, which is downstream from what? Pregnenolone, which is downstream from what? Cholesterol. Okay, so if we want to increase this, for instance, we want to increase our thyroid hormones, for instance, if you're low thyroid, or we want to balance our thyroid hormones, you've got to look at what's above there to actually be making the hormone to begin with. And with DHEA, we have to optimize this, we have to optimize this. We don't want to have pregnenolone steal. And this is what's so common if you have inflammation, if you have leptin resistance, if you've got those circadian mismatches between the light and dark cycle of the day. Let's say you never see the sunrise, you're always up after a certain hour, you're on technology or looking at your phone, on your computer after the sun has set, you're sending those wrong messages of light to your brain, and that will offset this whole cascade of pregnenolone steal, and your body is preferentially making more cortisol instead of making its testosterone. Okay, so this becomes really important. Again, your environment, your light environment becomes, very, very important. Okay, I hope that answers that question. There's other ways, of course, to increase your testosterone and to balance out, because you don't want to have too much of the bad testosterone, the DHT. I call it, we all have DHT, we all need some DHT, but I call it the bad one. You don't want that to be over exuberant compared, to the other testosterone breakdown products. All right, thank you. That was a great question. And more questions about, thank you, about taking magnesium bisglycinate. I'm not sure if that's a question, Philip, but yeah, that is my favorite type of magnesium to actually take. And I prefer magnesium, yes, in the morning, because it helps with the proper digestion of your carbs, your fats, and your proteins. Making sure, again, if you're taking a magnesium supplement, that it doesn't have that magnesium stearate, all right? That magnesium stearate. Okay, I know who was waiting. It was the Sunshine Mumsy was waiting for the recipe. Okay, so I promised, you've been probably hanging this whole time. We opened up today's Q&A talking about the delicious macaroons that we made yesterday, and this is a low-carb, collagen-rich macaroon. Let me share the recipe, because I know you've been waiting, and thank you for your patience. I almost forgot. Here we go. So we have, of course, our sponsors, VitaTree, the collagen powder, as well as some unsweetened coconut, so shredded coconut, 3 cups of that, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of melted grass-fed butter. You could either do salted or unsalted, totally up to you. I prefer salted, to be honest. I just like the contrast of the sweet and the salty. A 1/3 cup of monk fruit sweetener, 2 teaspoons, or you could use any sweetener here that you really want to use. Now, if you want to keep it low carb, you're gonna go with something like monk fruit, but if you don't want to do that, hey, if you wanted to do any other sweetener, you could definitely do that here, as well as your vanilla extract, a pinch of salt, and a 1/4 cup, and this is totally optional, the mini chocolate chips, but this is how they turn out. I've already had 2 today. They are so delicious. I hope you screenshot that recipe, and please make them and let me know how much you love them in the comments, because they are so, so delicious and guilt-free. If, it's something that, as a little treat, it's something that is nice. We all need our treats once in a while. Who's with me there? Give me a thumbs up. Yes. Share is asking, does monk fruit cause headaches? It should not, but for some people it may if you're sensitive. It is natural. Often though, the monk fruit, and here is something that there's been misinformation, in my opinion, about the sugar alcohol. So often monk fruit is, and you can buy it without the xylitol or erythritol, but often it's combined with some of those sugar alcohols, which for some people can cause some symptoms. So I'm just saying that, but they've gotten sort of a bad rap. In terms of the sugar alcohols, in small amounts for most people, it's okay, and often a better alternative than to have the overt sugar, especially if you're trying to balance your blood glucose levels. Okay, Nikita is asking again, this is the magnesium. Okay, so I don't know if you can screenshot this. Magnesium stearate. It's not magnesium. It's a flow agent that is in most supplements. It's in most vitamins, minerals, magnesium supplements as well. It's called magnesium stearate. It'll say non-medicinal ingredients on the bottle. So that's what you want to look for. You want to avoid this because it's a flow agent. So it actually speeds up production times. They use it to speed up, the making of the supplements, but it's not healthy, and it's never been tested to be safe for long-term human consumption. So it's not something that I believe that we should be ingesting. Yes. Okay. So Dean Clips is asking about testosterone levels out of balance. Yes, that is very common with PCOS. And how can you lower, and how can you find, that's actually something that we should revisit in the show. So PCOS. So maybe actually Dean Clips, Tajri, did I say that right? Maybe we'll come to that on Tuesday. So please tune in on Tuesday. I do want to cover high testosterone and PCOS. It's something that I think is a very important topic for girls, women who have, an imbalance with the hormones because of what's happening at a higher level. And it's something that I think that we should definitely be covering. So yes, all right, we're going to do that. So please tune in on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will talk about high testosterone and in women, and what we can do about that. Our Vigil, hello, nice to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Ramona, yes, it's great to have you from Colorado. Thank you for tuning in today. Amazing, amazing. Foods that are, Mohit is asking, foods that are great for inflammation. So anti-inflammatory foods, okay, top 3 that come to mind are going to be olive oil, because of the polyphenols, very anti-inflammatory. I love avocados if they're in season and they grow where you live, anti-inflammatory as well. The berries are very anti-inflammatory. And anything that grows locally and close to where you're at, here we see the beautiful avocados, of course, then that is going to be very important. Enough hydration is important as well. So drinking good quality water is very anti-inflammatory. But another thing is, of course, Mohit, is the grounding, something that we talked about yesterday. So getting grounded really helps to offset that inflammation in the body, pulling up the Earth's electrons and being able to do that. Amakia Velo TV in Italy, hello, nice to have you here. Thank you for tuning in. Del Ramos for very dry eyes is blink more, but DHA. So the omega-3s, often people with dry eyes are low in DHA. So that's actually a supplement that I personally take daily, is a high DHA fish oil supplement. So that's something maybe my team can help you with that in terms of pointing you in the right direction for that. That's very, very important. And eating more seafood. So we've talked about oysters, so eating oysters, mussels, fish, and making sure that you're doing regular detox as well, because that's important, because we know that fish isn't always pristine and there could be heavy metals and toxins and things. So doing regular quarterly, I like to do a full body detox 4 times a year, and killing off some of the bad guys in the gut as well. It's just part of the protocol that I have adopted now, just to stay healthy and continue to eat the seafood that may have some issues in there. Del Ramos, okay, you take, if you're taking 369, it may probably doesn't have enough DHA. So you've got to look, for a high DHA supplement that is, a pure product, a fish oil supplement. Okay, thank you so much for everybody who tuned in today for today's Q&A. Make sure you tune in on Tuesday. Those were great questions today. Shelley of Brampton, thank you for tuning in. And we'll see you on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I look forward to seeing you all then. Have a great few days. Check out all my content. Thank you for all the love and all the hearts and all the new followers as well who came into Q&A. We'll see you then. Bye.